He was convicted in under 2 hours. The jury deliberated for less time than it takes to watch a film, and when the verdict came in, he was 26 years old. He told the court he was innocent. His lawyer told the court he was innocent. And the evidence, what little of it there was, told the same story. None of it mattered. He spent the next 18 years of his life behind bars for a crime he did not commit. And the most disturbing part of this story is not how it happened, it's how easy it was. This is Docket Decoded, and this is the story of a system that failed one man, and why it is failing others right now. To understand how this happened, you have to understand how ordinary the beginning was. Our subject, we will call him Marcus, grew up in a mid-sized American city. He had a job, he had a family, he had a future, and then, in one single evening, everything changed. A violent crime took place in his neighborhood. A woman was assaulted. The police had no strong leads, but they had one thing, a witness. One witness who said she saw a man near the scene, and that witness picked Marcus out of a photo lineup. Eyewitness identification. It sounds reliable. It feels reliable. A real person, looking at a real face, saying, "That's him." Jurors believe it. Courts trust it. And for decades, science has been telling us we should not. But in 1988, that science hadn't reached the courtroom yet. Marcus was arrested. He was charged. He maintained his innocence from day one. His alibi witnesses were not called to the stand. His defense lawyer, overworked, under-resourced, did not challenge the eyewitness testimony as forcefully as the evidence demanded. The trial lasted 3 days. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty. Marcus was sentenced to life in prison. To understand why Marcus' case matters, and why cases like his keep happening, we need to understand one legal concept: due process. Due process is the legal guarantee that the state must follow fair procedures before depriving someone of their liberty. Here's the simplest way to understand it. Imagine you're a referee in a football match. Your job isn't to make sure the right team wins. Your job is to make sure the game is played by the rules. Due process is that referee. It doesn't guarantee the right outcome. It guarantees the right process. And in Marcus' case, the process failed at almost every stage. Failure number 1, a witness testimony. Research, including landmark studies from the 1990s onward, has consistently shown that human memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction. Under stress, across racial lines, in poor lighting, our witness accuracy drops dramatically. Yet for decades, courts treated it as gold. Failure number 2, inadequate defense. In the United States, the Sixth Amendment guarantees every defendant the right to effective legal counsel, but effective has an uncomfortably low bar in practice. If your lawyer was present, and entered a plea, and sat through the trial, the court may find that you received adequate representation, even if that lawyer had 200 other cases open simultaneously. Failure number 3, confirmation bias. Once police had a suspect, Marcus, the investigation stopped looking for alternatives. Evidence that pointed elsewhere was not followed. The narrative had been set. This is not unique to this case. It is how investigations often work, and it is a known, documented flaw in criminal justice systems worldwide. Still with me? Good. Because this is where the story changes. In 1992, 2 lawyers named Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld created an organization that would change criminal justice forever, the Innocence Project. Their idea was simple: use DNA testing, which was brand new at the time, to re-examine cases where the verdict might have been wrong. What they found shook the legal world. Marcus had been in prison for 11 years when the letter arrived. The Innocence Project had reviewed his file, and they had found something the original investigation had missed, or had not thought to test. Physical evidence from the crime scene, still in storage, never subjected to DNA analysis. In the original trial, 1988, DNA testing was not widely available as a forensic tool. By 1999, it was. The Innocence Project filed a motion requesting DNA testing of the evidence. The prosecution opposed it. The state argued, and I want you to hear this clearly, the state argued that the verdict was final. That testing would be disruptive. Let that land. The state, the very institution whose job is to find the truth, argued against finding the truth. The court sided with the prosecution. Motion denied. Marcus kept appealing. His legal team kept fighting. Every motion was denied. Every appeal hit a wall. 7 years passed. But before I tell you how this ended, there is something the original news coverage almost never mentioned. The eyewitness who identified Marcus in that photo lineup. She came forward. 11 years after the trial, she came forward to say that she was not certain, that she had felt pressured by the detective conducting the lineup, that when she picked his photo, the detective had said, "Good. That's who we thought it was." This is called a suggestive lineup procedure, and it poisons the identification from the moment it happens. Once a witness is told they picked the right person, their memory locks. They are no longer remembering the real event. They are remembering the confirmation. Armed with this new information, Marcus' legal team filed again. This time, the court agreed to hear it. DNA testing was ordered. The results came back in 2006. The DNA from the crime scene did not match Marcus, not even close. 18 years after his conviction, Marcus walked out of prison a free man. So what actually changed because of this case? Marcus was exonerated. His conviction was vacated. The state issued a formal apology and a compensation payment. Wrongful conviction compensation in the U.S. typically ranges from $50,000 to $10 million, depending on the state. But here is the harder question. Was justice served? The detective who ran the suggestive lineup retired. No charges. The prosecutor who opposed DNA testing for 7 years, still practicing law. The original defense lawyer, never disciplined. A man lost 18 years of his life. He missed his parents growing old. He missed his children growing up. He was 44 years old when he walked out of that prison door. And not one person who put him there faced a single professional consequence. Since 1989, over 375 people have been exonerated through DNA evidence in the United States alone. The average time they spent wrongfully imprisoned, more than 14 years. More than 14 years. These are not statistical anomalies. They are the visible evidence of a system that is not designed to admit it is wrong. Do you think the verdict, 18 years, and no accountability afterward, was justice? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. Now here is where it gets interesting, because this problem is not American. In the United States, the Innocence Project model has driven real reform. 42 states now have post-conviction DNA access laws, but compensation for the wrongfully convicted is still not federally mandated. It is state by state, inconsistent, and often deeply inadequate. In the UK, the Criminal Cases Review Commission, the CCRC, exists specifically to investigate potential miscarriages of justice and refer cases back to the Court of Appeal. It is independent of the police and the prosecution. The U.S. has no equivalent federal body. In Australia, each state handles post-conviction review differently. There is no national equivalent of the Innocence Project, or the CCRC. Queensland and New South Wales have seen high-profile wrongful convictions overturned, but the review mechanisms are inconsistent and underfunded. And in India, this is where it gets particularly significant. India has no dedicated wrongful conviction review body. The only path to exoneration after a final verdict is an Article 32 petition to the Supreme Court, a constitutional remedy that is technically available to everyone, and practically accessible to almost no one without significant legal resources. India's National Crime Records Bureau has documented thousands of under-trial prisoners, people in prison for years before their trial has even concluded. The wrongful conviction problem in India is not a rare exception. It is embedded in the structure of the system. The right to a fair trial, the presumption of innocence, due process. These principles exist in every legal system we just covered, but principles written in law and principles applied in courtrooms are very different things. I'm your host Alfie. This was Docket Decoded. If this case changed the way you think about what guilty really means, the next one will go even further. Subscribe, and I'll see you there.